Alright, so thank you everyone for coming here today. I'm sorry my voice sounds really bad right now, like a dying seal, but I lost my voice throughout this week. So before I get started, I just wanted to ask you all a question. Prior to this seminar, how many of you have heard my name or know about my book, Road to Success? Alright, that's one person. So, Mr. Pavin said I was becoming popular, but obviously that's not true yet. And that's fine. I'm not here to talk about popularity because obviously I don't have the credibility to do that. But I am here to talk about something a little more important. But before I begin, let me introduce myself since no one knows who I am. My name is Faizon Ahmed and I'm studying bioengineering at the University of Louisville. And the whole idea of this speech actually started from this one dream that I had. So in this dream, I walked into class one day, and I sat down, and I waited for my professor to walk in. Now when my professor walked in, instead of going to his lecture table, he stood in the center of the room and he scanned everyone like an eagle. And he said, today you have to answer one question, and how you answer that one question will be 25% of your grade. Now at that point, all the students, we started freaking out. My roommate can attest to the fact that 25% is a lot of your grade. And so the one question was, what is the greatest invention of mankind? So the whole idea was the whole class had to agree on one answer, and they convinced the professor that what we chose was the best answer. And so people said stuff from a television, cars, radio. I raised my hand and I said Netflix. That wasn't what we chose, but we kept arguing, and the problem was we couldn't agree on one answer. That was until a kid in the back, he raised his hand and he said, a GPS. See, no one had thought of a GPS before. But by the end of the class, we had convinced the professor that a GPS was one of the best inventions of mankind. And here's what we said. We said that with the GPS, as long as you know where you want to go, it can take you absolutely anywhere in the world. The hardest part is literally knowing where you want to go. And so that is the first step on the road to success. I will be your GPS today and I will take you from where you are today to where you want to be. And the first step simply begins by knowing where you want to go, what you want to accomplish. Now, I realize that this is a lot easier than it seems, but you can't go on a journey without having a destination. You can't achieve goals without having goals. Now, actually, during winter break, I had a couple of friends come over and we wanted to watch a comedy movie on Netflix. So I scrolled to the comedy section on Netflix and I said, okay guys, so what movie do you guys want to watch? They said, doesn't matter to us, any movie. I said, okay. So the first movie was this movie called Mr. Deeds. It's an Adam Sandler movie. And I said, you guys want to watch this? And they said, it's too old. We don't want to watch it. I said, that's okay. So what movie do you guys want to watch? And they said, doesn't really matter, just not that one. So the second movie was this movie called The Hangover. I said, this is pretty funny, you guys want to watch this? And they said, seen it too many times, don't really want to watch it. So I said, okay, so what movie do you guys want to watch? And they said, doesn't really matter. I got a little irritated at this point. So the third movie was this movie called Good Will Hunting. And I said, do you guys want to watch this? And they said, nah, it doesn't seem that funny. And now at that point, an argument that went on for 30 minutes happened. So moral of the story is that they couldn't decide on what movie to watch, let alone big life decisions. And so that's a problem that a lot of us face today. We simply don't know what we want out of life. In fact, Brian Tracy, this guy is one of the most successful businessmen in America. He said that the number one reason why most people aren't successful in life is because they don't know what they want in life. There's a famous quote that says, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. But today it is up to you to find that road that will take you from where you are today to where you want to be in the future. Now, a lot of people have asked me, what's the best way to accomplish a goal? And I'll tell you the most efficient way. The best way to accomplish a goal is to begin with the end. Now that sounds pretty confusing, so since I'm studying engineering, I'll give you all an engineering example. With engineering, we are known for designing buildings. Now, before even construction on a building begins, the engineers know what the building is going to look like. They have 3D models, sketches, the physics, the moments, forces. They know everything about the building. They've already done all the hard parts before they even begin construction. So today you're going to have to be an engineer. Have a goal, visualize it, feel what it's going to be like when you accomplish that goal, and retrace the steps. And doing that will not only allow you to visualize your goal, but it'll allow you to motivate yourself by seeing an inspiring vision of yourself. Now, one of the biggest problems most people suffer today with is the art of goal setting. A goal has 3 parts, but before I tell you what the parts are, let me tell you a personal goal of mine. So in 2017, I set a goal that says by June 1st, 2017, I will have lost 5 pounds. Now, I only have 10 more to go. But the essence is not what the goal is, but the 3 parts to it. So my goal has a deadline, June 1st, 2017. A deadline is important because it gives you an idea of how to avoid procrastination. You can divide up your goal into small time parts. Now the second part of a goal is a numerical value. So mine was 5 pound goal. I mean, now it's 10. But a numerical value is important because it gives you an idea of how to measure your progress. Now the third part is where it gets a little confusing, and it's the use of the words will have. And so before writing the seminar speech, I read about 15 books. Half of the books said you need to use the words can, so saying that I can get a 4.0 or I can lose 5 pounds, but the other half of the book said you need to use the words will have. So I will have gotten a 4.0 or I will have lost 5 pounds. So the question becomes, which one do you use and does it even matter? So after doing a little more research, I found out that the most poisonous word in the English dictionary is the word can. Because when you say that you can, you also imply that you cannot. You imply the possibility of failure. But when you use the words will have, you kind of trick your mind into thinking that it's already done, that you've already accomplished your goal. So by using these 3 parts to set your goal, you will not only have a daily affirmation, but you can motivate yourself any day. So now that you all know the importance of knowing what you want and how to accomplish a goal, it's step 2 of the road to success. And this is ramming through roadblocks. Now, imagine that you could have anything that you wanted in life. Anything in your imagination can become a reality in your hands. But there is one catch. And the catch is that there will be obstacles. There will be roadblocks. Now, before I begin talking about roadblocks, I want to talk about the F word. The F word is a word that all of us say. My roommates are here. They say it more than me. And so, unfortunately, my parents have heard me say it, and I don't want to say this word because my brother's here, but in order to convey the message of the speech, I'm going to say it anyway. The word that I'm talking about is obviously what you guys are thinking. It's fear. And so fear can be anything from the fear of rejection, the fear of ridicule, the fear of being made fun of, the fear of messing up in your seminar speech, which I have right now. Whatever the fear may be, the question becomes, what do we do when we have this fear? So Brian Tracy, the businessman who I mentioned earlier, he worked out in telemarketing, the annoying people that call you every day. And he said that 40% of the people quit within 2 years because of the fear of rejection, because they kept hearing the words no. So they quit their jobs. But Brian Tracy said that what differentiates a successful businessman from the one who isn't is that the successful one embraces fear. He realizes that it's okay. And that's what we need to do today. Having fear doesn't make you weak. In fact, when you set any goal, there's going to be that little voice in your head that says that you can't do it. Don't eliminate that voice. Let it stay there. Realize that you're always going to be scared of something. But when you're scared of something, embrace that fear and do it anyway. I can't really think of a better story to tell than Jim Carrey. So Jim Carrey is one of Hollywood's most loved comedians. And today we know Jim Carrey for being wealthy and smart and funny, but the truth is he wasn't always like that. In 1990, he was living in an RV with his parents and his siblings. Now, he was the financial backbone of his family. He was trying to force his siblings to go to school as well as take care of his parents. And he worked in a bar and on the side job did stand-up comedy. Now, after every show, he would drive up to this street called Mulholland Drive, he would drive up and he would see the Hollywood sign, and he would see all of Los Angeles. And what he would do is, he would park his car, sit back, and visualize. He would visualize himself being in movies, seeing his parents happy, seeing his siblings going to school. In fact, one day he got out his checkbook and he wrote himself a check for $10 million. And he dated it for 1995. So in other words, he promised himself that within 5 years, he would go from being broke to having $10 million. So I know the question that a lot of you are wondering is, what happened within those 5 years? In 1994, he released 3 movies: Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, and Ace Ventura. Now I see some people smiling, so I know you guys have at least heard of these movies and not seen them. The thing is that in 1995, his asking price to be in a movie was not $10 million. It was $20 million. He took that check that he had and he buried that check in his father's coffin. His father also wanted to be a comedian, but he was scared of failing, so he ended up being an accountant instead, and he still lost his job. Jim Carrey accepted his fear and his insecurities. He realized that if he failed, he would not only let himself down, but his family as well. But he did it anyway. And accepting your fears and your insecurities is not something that's that easy. In fact, growing up in America, I had one of the biggest insecurities, and it was simply being a Muslim. About 5 years ago, I remember walking downstairs. This was on a regular school day, and I saw my parents watching TV. Now, this was unusual because my parents never watched TV in the morning. They're always getting ready and making breakfast. But they were silent and watching TV, and I sat down and I watched the TV for the next 30 minutes as well. What I saw on the TV was a terrorist attack on 2 mosques, and this was on a Friday. The reason why I bring this up is because many Muslims go to the mosque on Friday, synonymous with Christians go to church on Sunday. Now, Al-Qaeda, which is a terrorist organization, was attacking these mosques. And the worst part of it is that members of my family go to these mosques. And so I saw for the next 30 minutes pieces of the mosque being blown up, bullet holes in the Holy Quran, 90 dead bodies being taken out, knowing that my family was in the ICU. After that day, I was never the same. I developed a sense of insecurity about my faith and who I was. In school, I would get made fun of. People would call me a terrorist, a suicide bomber. Some people even call me a sandbagger. And obviously, I played it off like it was a joke, but it ate me up inside. And I came to a point in my life where I had to make a decision. And the decision was I gonna keep on living being this scared boy of his faith, or was I gonna do something about it? So I took action. I read more and more, learned about who I was, about my faith, and today I can proudly say that I could not be any more proud of who I am. And it took me 6 years to get over this insecurity. But when I did, it felt like a huge burden was lifted off my shoulders. When you face your insecurities head on and you defeat them, then you too will alleviate so much pain in your life. And it's not easy. It might take you days, months, or years. But when you do, you will realize that you are capable of anything. And a second roadblock that many people have today are excuses. People in America believe that they are entitled to the American dream. In fact, millions of people immigrated here to find wealth, happiness, success, fame, and most of them ended up homeless. When most people are encountered with any sort of obstacle, they make excuses like, maybe it's not meant for me. Maybe I should just give up. They put those excuses on other people, but they never expect responsibility for themselves. Well, today I'm going to teach you 3 magic words that will eliminate every excuse in your life. And 3 magic words are, I am responsible. Actually, on the count of 3, I want you all to say these words with me. So 1, 2, 3. Say, I am responsible. Now, when I said those 3 words, I felt super uncomfortable. I kind of felt my stomach turn a little bit. The reason why was because I never was responsible for my life. I always put blames on other people. But when I said those 3 words, it was at that moment that I had some sudden moment of clarity, that my life opened up and I realized that I am responsible for my outcomes. That every thought, every action that I do in my daily life, that results in the outcomes that I live in today. In fact, because I'm studying engineering and my roommates are here, they can attest to you that all we do is math. So this speech wouldn't actually be complete without a formula. Most people spend their lives searching for the formula of success. I think I've got it. What it is E plus R equals O. What this basically says is that there are going to be certain events that happen in your life, and how you respond to them will determine the outcome. And when I first saw this formula, I thought it was complete BS, because I thought that you can't control everything that happens in your life. Like, I can control whether it's going to rain tomorrow, but you can't control the responses, and therefore the outcomes. In fact, in California in the 90s, there used to be tons of earthquakes. In fact, one morning, there was an earthquake and there was a huge traffic jam at 7 a.m. in the morning. And so there was this news broadcast van and they interviewed people in the traffic jam. So the first guy that they interviewed, they said, how do you like life in California? Now this guy, he was upset. He said, I hate this city. He said, I wake up at 5:30 every morning and I'm stuck in these long traffic jams. But the thing is that the guy behind him, this guy had a huge smile on his face. So the news van, they thought this was really weird. So they ran to that guy and interviewed him, asked him the same question. He said, what do you think about life in California? And he said, I love it. I wake up at 5:30 every morning, I exercise, I make myself my own breakfast, I read the daily newspaper, and when I'm stuck in a traffic jam, I listen to a Spanish audio CD. So while the guy in front of him is complaining about how horrible California is, this guy is learning a new language, exercising, and eating healthy. So the event in both cases is the same. It's an earthquake, which is something that we can't control. But the response is totally different, and therefore the outcome. The beauty of this formula is that no matter what events happens in our lives, no matter how negative it is, with the appropriate response, we can make any negative thing positive. So now you guys are ready for the 3rd step on the road to success. And this is avoiding detours. Now, before I start talking about detours, I want to talk about 2 mindsets. The mindsets are a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. With a fixed mindset, you believe that there are qualities in life that are fixed. That your intelligence cannot be improved, that your athleticism cannot be improved, that there are certain, I guess you can say, limits to life. But with the growth mindset, you believe that everything can be improved, that you can become smarter, more intelligent, more athletic. Now, Vishen Lakhiani, this guy is the CEO of a company called Mind Valley. It's a meditation-based company. He said that he has 2 regrets in life. His first regret is that he wished that he failed more. And the second regret is that he wished he had more unrealistic dreams. So now, let's dissect the first part of the statement. He wished that he had failed more. Now this is kind of weird to say since this speech is about success, but because he says that he wished he failed more, what could that possibly mean? Vishen Lakhiani had over 5 failed businesses before he became the CEO of Mind Valley. He almost actually filed for bankruptcy. But from every failed business, he learned something new about himself. And that's what made him the CEO of Mind Valley. And now the second part of his statement was that he wished that he had more unrealistic dreams. What that basically means is that people today settle for much less than what they deserve. There's a quote by Michelangelo that says, "The greatest danger to our society is not that we aim too high and miss, but that we aim too low and succeed." What this basically says is that people don't believe in themselves. We settle for much less than what we deserve because we're simply not confident. There is no goal on this earth that is unrealistic. J.K. Rowling was rejected 5 times before Harry Potter was published. She was told that her ideas were unimaginative. NASA, I think you all have heard of them, they failed 27 times before they sent the first man to the moon. Steve Jobs, he was fired from Apple because his ideas were too uncreative. Well, look at him now. So many of us are told day to day that we cannot do something. Some of us may even tell ourselves that we cannot do something. We need to get over that hump and realize that the greatest successes of our society today were also the greatest failures of our society. And the problem with today is that we value effortless achievement. Most people know Michael Jordan for being the greatest basketball player to ever live, but no one knows that he didn't make the high school basketball team. In Germany, there's a big thing about classical music. They love playing the violin. However, the average violinist in Germany practices 10,000 hours within a period of 7 years. If you do the math, this is about 4 to 5 hours a day. But when you buy that ticket to go see them play, you only see the final product. You don't see the 10,000 hours that went into it. Realize that what you see today is a product of effort, determination, and failure. Now, I've told you all a lot of stories today, but lastly, I want to tell you mine. December of my senior year, I was taking the ACT. Now, this was my 7th time taking the ACT. Now, us in college, we don't really care about the ACT anymore, but back in high school, this was something that everyone talked about. Now, I had taken the ACT 6 times prior to this, and I got the same score. So for the December one, I pumped it up a notch. I bought 4 practice test books, did all of them cover to cover, so roughly this is about 1,352 pages. I did 11 practice tests, averaged a pretty high score on them. So you could say that I felt ready for the ACT in December. So I took it, felt extremely confident in my score. And I got my result by December 31st. And I remember waking up, checking my phone and seeing the words, "Your ACT score is ready." Opened up that website, checked my score. And it was the same score that I got previous other times. I remember dropping my phone at that point. And I felt like I let down myself. I let down my parents. Every morning at 4 a.m., I saw my mom used to get up for me and pray for me that I do well. Those 6 months of prayer, I felt like I let my own mother down. 1 hour later, downstairs I heard my mom sobbing. I knew she was talking on the phone, so I ran downstairs. And the speakerphone was on, and all I heard were, "Your dad has died." So my grandfather passed away, and I don't even remember the last words that I said to him. And this was December 31st. So needless to say, I did not go out that night. 2 weeks later, I found out that a scholarship that I applied for at UK, the diversity scholarship, I failed to get the diversity scholarship at UK. So at that point, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. The ACT, my grandfather, the fact that I was not diverse enough to get the diversity scholarship. So what happened then was I locked myself in my room. I used to come home from school and just sleep. I prayed to God one day. I said, "God, why do bad things happen to good people? I said, I'm a good person. And so I went to my dad's study one day, and my dad has hundreds of books. And I said, I'm just going to pick out a random book to read today. One of the books was, Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? I felt like my prayer got answered in the most miraculous way. I read that book within that day. A week later, I went to the bookstore, bought 7 more books. Read them all within a week. And I took notes over every book. I did that for 15 weeks. 15 books in 15 weeks. Took notes over all of them. Then I had the idea, what if I wrote my own book? What if I could help people to not go through what I went through? Now, I have no idea how I was going to do it. I'm a high school student with no English degree trying to write a book. I didn't care. I opened up my 2007 Microsoft Word and I started typing. I typed for 4 hours a day. 4 hours a day for a month and a half. And I did it. I met the right people along the way. I got it edited and I got it published. So then August came, a week before I moved into college. I walked into this very office to say my goodbye to Mr. Papen. And behind my back, I held my book. I didn't want him to know that I published the book. And he walked me into his office, and I was asking about his business, and he was telling me about all the new locations he was opening. Then he asked me, he said, so what have you done this summer? And I said, I mean, nothing much. I wrote a book, by the way. And seeing his face, his jaws dropped, and he asked me how I did it. That is my story. I want you all to know that when you walk out that door today, visualize yourself to where you want to be 6 months from now. Know what you want to accomplish. Realize that your desire to succeed has to be greater than your fear of failure. Your desire to succeed has to be greater than your need to breathe. Because if you don't, then you will fail. And know that whatever goal that you set out, you will encounter roadblocks, obstacles, detours. But it is up to you to reign through all of them. Because I promise you that once you achieve your goal, once you reach your destination, the journey will have all been worth it. Thank you.